Wake up 90 years early and die alone. You have the power to wake anyone to be your companion, but doing so also steals their life. Would you do it? What is your choice? It all begins on the starship Avalon. We are on a 120-year journey to a new planet, Homestead II. The ship is fully automated, a perfect machine. All 258 crew members and 5,000 passengers are in hibernation. I am one of them. But then an unexpected event occurred. An asteroid belt. The ship's shields began to weaken under the strain. The ship was heading straight for a giant meteor. A terrible collision occurred, causing a series of malfunctions. And then, one of the hibernation pods malfunctioned. My hibernation pod. I am Jim Preston, a mechanical engineer. When my pod opened, an automated system woke me up. It said I had slept for 120 years and had only 4 months left until Homestead II. 4 months to enjoy all the most luxurious services on the ship. I was instructed about the identification bracelet, the cabin, and the entertainment activities. I was both excited and anxious to meet everyone. I dressed neatly, left my cabin, and entered an automated classroom. A 3D hologram began a lecture about Earth. It called the place overcrowded, expensive, and overhyped. It told me to save my questions for the end of the lecture, but I kept asking why I was the only one here. I realized this robot couldn't answer me, so I went to find someone else. I went to the ship's main lounge. There was no one there, only an automated information desk. I asked to speak to a real person. It directed me to a flight attendant, but their room was also empty. Desperate, I demanded to see the captain. I couldn't enter the cockpit, but I knew for sure. The entire main crew was also in deep sleep. Finally, I went to the observation deck and discovered a horrifying truth. I had woken up 90 years too early. Panicked, I ran to the main lounge, sending a message to Earth for help. The system reported that I would have to wait about 55 years for a response. My heart shattered. I wandered and found the ship's bar. There, I saw someone else, but there was something very strange about him. When he went to get a drink, I realized he was a robot. His name was Arthur. I tried to ask for more information, but he couldn't understand why I was there. The next day, I went to the dining hall and realized most things were for first-class passengers. I drank my weak coffee and tried to fix my hibernation pod. I found all the tools and made it work. I lay down inside, but nothing happened. Desperate, I decided to break into the crew's hibernation area, but it was also useless. Many small malfunctions began to appear throughout the ship. I returned to the bar, keeping Arthur company. He gave me a piece of advice that led me to break into a first-class room to party. I tried all the restaurants, games, and entertainment systems, but as time passed, I became more and more miserable from loneliness. One day, drunk, I wandered and found a spacesuit storage room. I put one on and went out into space. The view outside overwhelmed me, breathtakingly beautiful. I was the only one awake to witness this moment. I turned off the magnets on my shoes and floated in space, feeling utter despair. I went back inside, took off the suit. I returned to the pod door, naked. I was going to end it all, but at the last moment I stopped. It was then that I saw her, Aurora. I looked up her profile and listened to her interview, and I was smitten. After that, I just sat by her pod, listening to that voice over and over. I read her works, confided in Arthur about her. Ironically, I came here to find a better life, only to wake up too early and find my perfect woman. But she was out of reach. I kept thinking about waking her up. But even Arthur the robot couldn't understand this dilemma. If I woke her up, it would be a death sentence for both of us. At first, I decided not to, but as time went on, I couldn't bear it anymore. And then one day, I changed my mind. I woke her up. As she woke up, I quickly hid in my room. A while later, I went to the main lounge, hoping to find her, and indeed, she was there. She was as confused as I was a year ago. I told her that only the two of us were awake and took her to the observation deck. Aurora panicked and wanted to return to her hibernation pod. I explained that we couldn't go back to sleep, we were trapped. We went back to the main lounge. I told her to rest. She felt sorry for me, for having lived alone for over a year. I returned to the bar, feeling immense guilt. I told Arthur not to tell Aurora that I was the one who woke her up. The next day, Aurora returned to the main lounge, asking the information desk about her hibernation pod. I went there, and we had breakfast together. As we were walking, the information desk malfunctioned again. In the dining hall, Aurora realized I had been eating the same breakfast for over a year. She got me a first-class meal, and we talked about fixing the hibernation pod. Unlike me, Aurora hadn't given up hope yet. She rummaged through the medical bay for a solution. I noticed more and more malfunctions occurring on the ship. After a while, Aurora lamented her life on the Avalon. She wrote, ran around the ship, and swam in the pool. She became more and more aware of her situation. She came to interview me, thinking my story would be interesting. She asked me why I was immigrating, and I replied that I hoped to start a new life. Then, Aurora finally shared why she was here. Unlike others, she had a return ticket. She planned to go to Homestead II, live there for a year, then return to Earth to become the first journalist to do so. Aurora gradually gave up hope, and I tried to cheer her up. I took her dancing, to movies, to play basketball, and finally to see Arthur. She relaxed for a while, until she remembered her situation. I was alone again with the robot, feeling terrible. A while later, Aurora entered the observation deck and saw the miniature Chrysler building model I made for her. Then we had a date at the bar. We ate dinner and shared about our lives. She told me her father had passed away when she was a teenager. After dinner, I took Aurora out into space and we went for a walk together. Finally, I had someone to share this wonderful experience with. I turned off the magnets and we floated together among the stars. We went back inside and kissed and spent the night together. Soon after, we began living as a couple. Aurora moved into my cabin and wrote about her life. We ran together, ate together, slept together. I explored the ship more and found the hydroponic garden. I brought flowers to Aurora. One day the ship passed a red giant star. It was Aurora's birthday, so we celebrated at the restaurant. I went to the restroom, preparing the ring I made for Aurora, while she was talking to Arthur. And Arthur told her the truth. Suddenly, I turned back and she confronted me with extreme doubt. She ran away angrily. I returned to my cabin and found her belongings gone. The next day, I met her in the dining hall, but she ran away again. Aurora was completely devastated. One night, she came to my cabin, beat me, wanting to kill me. I tried to apologize and explain my actions. I told her I loved her, but she didn't care. She couldn't forgive me for stealing her life. Another night, another incident occurred. The ship had a critical failure, and the main control system shut down. The elevator I was in also broke down. Aurora entered the main lounge and saw I had planted a tree there. Then she went to the dining hall and saw the vending machine had also broken down. Suddenly, we heard the voice of the deck commander. We ran to the main lounge and saw Gus Mancuso standing by the tree. We introduced ourselves and told him about the situation. He couldn't understand how all 3 hibernation pods could have malfunctioned. Mancuso took us to the cockpit and discovered something was wrong. As we left, a robot almost fell on our heads. We told Mancuso that the incidents had been happening more frequently. He said that shouldn't be happening. Mancuso checked the pods and discovered what I had done. He said my actions were horrific. Then he stayed in the cockpit checking data, and Aurora joined him. They talked about what had happened to her pod. I entered with the 16th broken robot. Mancuso felt unwell. When he stepped out, he coughed up blood. That night, Aurora couldn't sleep, so she went for a swim. Suddenly, the ship lost gravity, and she began to drown. The gravity control restarted, and she narrowly escaped death. We ran to find Mancuso. All 3 of us returned to the cockpit, slowly discovering what was happening. Mancuso discovered something had happened 2 years ago, damaging a main system. We had to find and fix it, otherwise the entire ship would be doomed. We went to find the problem, but Mancuso collapsed. He was dying. There was no cure or way to prolong his life. A while later, Mancuso gave me his bracelet and passed away. Suddenly, the lights turned red, signaling an alarm, and the ship began to shake. I told Aurora I needed her help. We ran to the engine room, but another malfunction occurred. Arthur was also damaged, and I had to turn him off. Finally, we reached the engine room. We found the problem in the power plant. The meteor collision had created a hole in it. I was sucked in, but I managed to hold on to the hatch. Eventually, I was sucked in, but we quickly sealed the hole. Soon after, I realized there was more than one hole. We followed the trail and discovered it had hit the reactor control computer. I thought I could find a replacement part. We found it and replaced it, but the reactor discharge still failed. I realized I had to open the discharge from the outside to cool the reactor. I gave Aurora Mancuso's bracelet. She helped me put on the spacesuit. As I stepped into the pod door, she said she couldn't live without me. Aurora returned to the reactor, where the temperature had reached a dangerous level. Meanwhile, I was trying to open the discharge. The temperature kept rising, and I realized I had to hold the discharge manually. I told Aurora to discharge the reactor. She didn't want me to die, but I said we had to save the others, and she did. The process was successful, but the exhaust pushed me away and severed my safety tether. I was dying. I apologized to her again. Aurora put on a spacesuit and flew out to save me, but her tether was too short. She was pulled back, but managed to grab my tether. Aurora pulled me into the medical bay, but I was dead. She used Mancuso's bracelet to revive me. The medical pod worked miraculously and brought me back. Aurora forgave me. After that, Aurora repaired Arthur, and we held a solemn funeral for Mancuso. I took her to the medical bay and said I had found a way to put her in hibernation. I told her to go inside and complete her journey, but as she wrote later, she refused. Finally, I proposed to her. 88 years later, the crew woke up to a surprise. Aurora left a message telling the story of our lives on the ship. My story ends here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching until the end of the video, and see you next time.